Okay, I did the book 13 by Steve Kavanaugh. My hook is, I want to know if you'd like to take a second chair in the biggest murder trial the city has ever seen. So, the summary, the main character, Eddie Flynn, is asked to be a part of Robert Solomon's defense team, and he's charged with killing his wife, Ariella, and his bodyguard, Carl. At first, he's hesitant because when he looks at the evidence, he thinks that it's he kind of is convinced that Robert did it, and he says that he only takes cases he knows that people are innocent, but he takes the job after looking at it a little bit more. And when he studies the case further, he senses inconsistencies, suggesting Robert was framed. He looks at the time frame of the crime, and he thinks it's too fast for him to, kill the person, kill the people, change, do all that. And then he also thinks, the blood is too perfectly placed, if that makes sense. He overall thinks the crime is too perfect to, for it to be Robert, if that makes sense. Also, he was an ex-con man, so he can, sense, he says that he can, I can sense by looking into someone's eyes if they're innocent or not. Just because he was, on the other side of the law at one point, too. Okay, so the killer we're introduced to really early in the book. Early on, we are introduced to Joshua Kane. He's the real killer of these two people. And he murders a juror on this case and steals his identity so he can manipulate the trial to prove that Robert Solomon is guilty. And then throughout the novel, he manipulates the jury by studying them. He stalks people a lot. He stalks the jurors' every move. He stalked, the jury consultant, the head of the jury a lot before he does eventually kill him. And, yeah, like I said, he continues to kill people throughout the novel. One example, Wally was a juror, and he knew that he didn't necessarily agree with Kane, and so he went ahead and killed him. He does this a lot. He's also a serial killer. He killed people previously to this. And then he also sends Flynn traps and threats throughout this novel when he feels like he's getting too close to the case, revealing him. Okay, so this isn't involved with Kane at all, but I thought I would mention this because it is kind of important to the book, but it's just kind of a subplot. So another obstacle in Eddie's way, his name is Granger. He's the attorney against Solomon. He has a personal vendetta against Flynn because of his past. He tampers with evidence throughout the case to make Robert look guilty, just so Eddie will just look really stupid. And then when he gets too close to the truth, Granger shoots him. This is in the very end of the book. Obviously Eddie lives, gets away, that ended up being fine. But this was just a little subplot that I thought I would mention. As the trial continues, the tensions in the courtroom heightened, and Flynn continued finding inconsistencies in the case. Once again, time, evidence, placement, all that stuff. He also notices, unsolved murders committed by Kane are really methodical. So before Eddie figures out who actually killed Robert, there was a dollar bill in his mouth, and there were previously unsolved murders with this same dollar bill as a logo on there. And so he notices that, which makes him think all these killings are connected. He doesn't know who it is yet. And then Eddie's conspiracy started to come together when he found a security video that shows another person at the crime scene, which proves Robert's alibi of where he was at the time. So the trial continues back and forth. There's a lot of I want to say the plot is kind of not repetitive, but it is a lot of just courtroom drama. So it's hard to add all the details in there of this case, but the trial continues back and forth, more evidence arises, and then Eddie finds out Kane is the real murderer. So Kane realizes the FBI is onto him. It's kind of like a cat and mouse game to catch Kane. When the FBI is onto him, he makes a run for it. He disguises himself as another person, drives away, and then eventually Eddie's life is put into danger when Kane almost kidnaps him, threatens to kill him. Eddie shoots him, and then it's revealed to, like, the outside that Kane is the real serial killer. There's a small twist at the end of this book. It's minor. It has to do with who Eddie thought. It's hard to explain. I don't want to spoil it, but yeah. So, the personal connection, I don't really relate to anyone in this book just because I haven't killed anyone and I'm also not a defense attorney, but some shows that remind me of this book are Suits, and there's not really any murder in this show, but it has a lot of legal tactics that relate to Eddie. Eddie's super big on, like, tactics, and, like, he's kind of a logical person. He doesn't really run on emotion, so that kind of relates to that. And then How to Get Away with Murder, it involved framing and lies, which clearly relate to this book, giving this whole book was kind of a lie, if that makes sense. Overall, this book wasn't really hard to follow. It wasn't hard to read. I felt, even though, like, I don't know a lot of legal vocabulary, but I wasn't lost at all. Another thing I didn't know going into this is that this is the 4th book in the series, which I didn't know, but I wasn't confused at all. Like, I didn't know that until I got to the end of the book when I realized I was in the 4th book of this series. But I didn't feel like I was missing any plot or background or anything like that. I liked how Kavanaugh made his characters come to life. I feel like everyone had such, like, a distinct personality, and obviously that's like that in a lot of books, but I feel like in this book, like, I really could, like, understand their personalities and, like, how they move, if that makes sense. So, yeah. I would definitely recommend this book, especially if you like fast-paced books. It's kind of stressful, like, you jump into it in chapter 1, like, it starts, which I like because I don't really like reading, so I get bored. So I liked that this was fast-paced. The only thing I didn't like, there were a lot of subplots, which sometimes made it hard to follow, like, who was involved in who. Like, for a while I was like, is Granger involved with Kane at all? But it was just, like, 2 different things, which kind of made it confusing, like, who sent what threats and all that. But other than that, I like the fast-paced feel.